You are now tuned into an OXP exclusive, First and 10 podcast / 94 by 50 podcast collaboration. We have Ilyas here, OXP member, OXP native as well too. I'm BG Brandon Graham of OXP Media. You can find this podcast on all of our platforms on OXP Media. This will be just a little collaboration, of course. First and 10 podcast, 94 by 50. Both the numbers coming together. Just gonna have a good time. We're gonna get into some NBA playoffs. How are you doing, by the way, Ilyas?
Oh man, I'm doing great. It's sunny outside. It's hot. You know, it's summertime. Can't complain about that. And things are opening up, so you gotta enjoy whatever you got at your hands. So
absolutely,
I'm doing great.
That's good, man. I think
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing better than Ben Simmons. That's what I'll say.
I think everyone at this point is doing better than Ben Simmons, man. I'm going through Twitter, and as they say, social media is still looking for their first loss. So it hasn't happened yet.
No, it has not happened. The internet is undefeated. If you see his Instagram, his comments on his Instagram, it's like people are like, "Yo, never post again." If you can't hit a shot, the next time you hit a shot in an NBA game is when you should post again. It's really, really wild. But we're gonna start there. We're just gonna get into some basketball. But please follow the 94 by 50 podcast. Hosted by Ilyas, of course, on OXP Media. So we're gonna get into that and of course support the First 10 podcast. But the Atlanta Hawks in Game 7. This is where we're gonna start in the East. All right, Game 7, Atlanta Hawks 41-31 against the number 1 seeded Philadelphia 76ers. All right. Just what is your take when it comes to the entire series in general? Because the Atlanta Hawks did go up and win 103-96 over the Sixers at home, and then they just have a really tough time with Game 7. So what was your take about the entire series? Like, what was your overall takeaway of the entire series?
I think the Philadelphia 76ers are obviously mentally defeated, and over the course of the years that they've had Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, they were not able to deliver. Their best shot was in 2019, and Kawhi happened. And we all know what happened later after that, right? They went on to win the championship. That is the Toronto Raptors, obviously. But I think it's time. It's time to cancel the process. It is really, I have nothing against Joel Embiid. I think he's a tremendous player. I think you can keep him and build around him, start fresh and have him as your core member of that new rebuilding process. But Ben Simmons, man, regardless of what's going to happen, regardless of what his future is going to be next year, where he's going to end up, because, the trade rumors are all over the place with social media and everyone writing up for possible changes with his position. But off-season starts now for him. You have to work on that shot. As a 6'10" guy that's, primarily everyone thought, oh, he's going to figure it out just like LeBron James did. LeBron James, it took a while, but he's not LeBron James.
No, it's not.
He is not LeBron James.
Right.
So he needs to get there. He needs to shoot that ball consistently. He needs to be able to create off the dribble to get that shot. There are a number of guys in the league that we know, even Giannis, for Christ's sakes, he is developing something. Yes, it's not perfect. Yes, it's not consistent, but if you dare him to shoot, he'll shoot the ball. And that's what Ben Simmons refuses to do. And we saw that prime time, Philly down 3. He has a wide open layup. He passes it, and they make a 1 free throw out of Matisse Thybulle, who got fouled on that layup. So, shooting. You can't be shooting 34% from the free throw line.
Awful.
As a first-team all-defense, I understand. You're one of the best defensive players in the league. You deserve your respect. But offense, you're an all-star. I don't remember last time having an all-star who wasn't able to shoot the ball in playoffs in time that it really mattered. No. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think so, man. And one stat, too, is that Ben Simmons in the fourth quarter of the series took 3 shots. 2 shots in game 1 in the fourth quarter, and then 2 shots in I believe game 3 in the fourth quarter. All the other games, he didn't attempt one shot. He was 2-4 in this past game in game 7, 50% obviously, but he's shooting, he has 5 points. This is an all-star. This is a guard as well too. It's definitely something psychological for sure, but it's you see Joel Embiid literally taking everything on his own shoulders. You have Seth Curry who is lighting it up, of course, but if you cannot win if it's Seth Curry and Joel Embiid scoring, be the only two guys that score in the second half in game 6. And in this game over here, you have Tobias Harris who's being aggressive. Once again, Tobias Harris' contract is fraudulent. That's another guy that we can get into. But Ben Simmons, I think you can win if he's a power forward, but not as a guard. Like, especially when he beats Danilo Gallinari off the little spin move, gets to the basket with under 2 minutes, 3 minutes to go. And then you see Joel Embiid's reaction, everyone's reaction. You're putting Thibault, who's only a second-year player, into a pretty bad position as well, too. Like, it's just – so there's something psychological going on. And you heard Doc Rivers was asked, do you think Ben Simmons can be an NBA championship point guard? He's like, I don't know. I got to get in the gym and work on it. So pretty much, like, he's not giving the assurance right there. He's not giving assurance. The team not giving assurance. Every one of the fans are just super mad because you go from, in 2019, having Jimmy Butler, J.J. Redick, of course, Joel Embiid and company. They had a good team around them. Josh Richardson, they had a good team around them. Right now, you're getting exposed because now he has to score. He didn't have to score before. He was a great defensive player, and he can score in transition easily, but he cannot score. He's just not. The spotlight was too big for him, and it's really wild. Like, it's been 3 years. People were waiting for him to kind of shoot. 4 years at this point. If you're not going to develop a shot now, it's not happening. And I don't want to see anything in the offseason where he's going to be shooting threes and nailing them. If you're not going to take it when it matters most, I don't want to see any of the footage over the summer at all. But it's really disappointing, right?
Absolutely. So I totally agree. It's something, as a 5-year veteran in the league, it's just it's unacceptable. Like, you have guys coming into the league from the first year and they're playing more aggressive. Like last year, Ja Morant came in athletic, sort of undersized. You can give him the benefit of the doubt of being like 6'4", 6'2", and like being 180. You see it, but that doesn't take away from you being aggressive. We've seen it in the past where shorter guys just took it up to you and there was nothing you could have done. AI was the prime time guy who just took it to you, and there's nothing you were able to do besides foul him. And every time you foul him, like Shaq said in his Hall of Fame speech, it's checkers. I mean, it's not checkers, it's chess.
Yeah, it's chess.
You have to. It's either you let him go or you foul him and you're not playing. Absolutely. Right? So, and Ben Simmons has the ability. He has the athleticism. He has the length and the size to go inside, draw double teams inside, and as good of a passer that he is, if he attracts an extra guy, that's a kick out for a wide open shot. And like you mentioned, Tobias Harris on that fraudulent contract, he got paid a lot of money in the beginning, and I still don't think he deserved that money. But the past 3 games he played like that was the money that he was supposed to get from the beginning.
Yeah.
He showed up and he showed out,
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, I was going to let you kind of continue there, but yeah, Tobias Harris, like 24 points, right? He's 8 for 24, like still not.
14 rebounds as well, going inside and crashing the board.
Yeah.
So.
There we go. But you can't have Tobias Harris, Seth Curry, and Joel Embiid be your prime 3. You're Ben Simmons. It's ridiculous. I honestly thought Doc Rivers was going to go with Maxey, just to get Maxey going. But speaking of them, of course, there's a bunch of issues on the Philadelphia 76ers. That process is over. Deactivate, defund, just destruct the entire process. It's over with. He's out of there. You got to get someone around Joel Embiid that can actually score and actually facilitate too. But talk about Kevin Huerter, man. Kevin Huerter out of Maryland. 27, right? He's 10 for 18, 55% shooting from the floor. He picked it up, right? Leading scorer in the entire game. Leading scorer on the Atlanta Hawks, of course, but shooter, him, Boyan, but obviously they have the pieces that can go on and actually make a run in the Eastern Conference. In the Eastern Conference Final, do you believe that or no?
Oh, absolutely. You know, if they play as good as they have been playing, you know, with uh, Collins, you know, John Collins, with Trae Young, who's been phenomenal all series. And then you have role players that, you know, they're second, third options, fourth options on the team, like Kevin Huerter and then Danilo Gallinari. And then you have, you know, Clint Capella, who can still give you the 10 and 10 any given night. You know, they definitely have the drive, they have the passion, and most importantly, they have the heart, and we've seen it. And their shooting ability is also that one thing that stands out a lot. And speaking of Kevin Huerter, he was that same guy in Maryland. I don't think people paid attention to what he was doing with Maryland.
He was going off, man.
He was doing anything. He had the shot, he had the drive, he had the mid-range pull-up, and we saw that yesterday. Anytime he had Seth Curry on him, he just explored the mismatch because that 4-inch side height advantage is going to catch you. And that's the, you know, that's another aspect that you can look at it as Ben Simmons not being able to score as much as Seth Curry can. Right. But if you put them in different roles as defense, or like on the defensive end, you can obviously see who produces more on defense. But in that type of game, you can't have Ben Simmons if he can't score.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you can't really have Seth on the floor because he can't really defend because he's a mismatch.
That's a fact. And you know what they're doing, they had Ben Simmons on Trae Young. And Trae, he can stay in front of him, but Trae's going to get you with a little pump fake, of course, too, right? We got him a few times this past game. Didn't have the best game. Only had 21 points. Shot quite a bit from the field and but made shots when it mattered most. And that's what matters, right? And Seth Curry, of course, is not going to guard Trae Young. It was a mismatch. The Philadelphia 76ers just need to rebuild because there's a lot of pieces it's a lot of random pieces kind of assorted together, and I think that they have to explore that this year. But going from there, that's something that they'll have to. The process is going to have to go through an entire rebuild. But going from there to the Bucks in Game 7, playing against the Brooklyn Nets. All right, you have Kevin Durant, James Harden coming off of a hamstring injury. Against Chris Middleton, Giannis actually played really well in Game 6 to bring it back to Game 7. What do you think about the Bucks? How they came out in that game? Do you think that there was a chance they may have lost? Do you think that they should have lost? What was your take on that game as well, too?
I mean, they played well, so I don't think they didn't deserve to win that game. Giannis had 40 and 13. Yes. You know, it's like, and same thing for KD. He had 48. It's basically two guys going at each other the entire night. My only thing, as they say, the asterisks on the season, on the year and whatnot, if Kyrie is there, I don't know if the Bucks are coming out of that series. You know, it's one thing you have to guard semi-healthy James Harden, who still gives you buckets. And then you have to defend KD, who literally gave you everything you could have imagined. And at the same time, you could have had Kyrie and guys like Blake Griffin coming off the bench. I expected Joe Harris to play a little, much better. He was cool. He was cold. Yeah, he was really cold, especially in those last 2-3 games. You know, he hasn't shot the ball well the same way we've seen him do before. He's one of the top catch and shoot guys in the league. Yeah. So it was a toss in the air. You know, it's basically whoever came ready and prepared in that game would have won, and whoever was healthier was going to win. And that happened to be the Bucks.
Yeah, that's what it is. And Joe Harris was 3 for 10, 30%, and 3 threes. But they could, if he made 1 or 2 threes down the stretch, probably would have gotten Brooklyn into the finals, and that would have been interesting to see exactly who will win, especially with the teams we're going to speak about next very soon. But on Milwaukee, a lot of people are saying, hey, let Chris Middleton cook, let him cook because his footwork is impeccable. He's going to make timely shots. He had 23 and 10, whereas Giannis obviously had 40 and 13. And it's exactly what you said too, what you mentioned. Giannis, even though his shot is sporadic and it's not consistent, especially from the deep, he's still gonna take those shots. If you give it to him over to what he's still gonna be aggressive. His competitive nature is there. That's what's not in Ben Simmons. I know how they keep going back to Ben Simmons, but it's really frustrating when you see a number 1 draft pick and you're like, oh, you put all this stock in something and nothing pans out, right? But anyways, so it's now seeing the Bucks winning 115-111 against the Brooklyn Nets, playing the Atlanta Hawks in the Eastern Conference Finals. What is your take on this series, and do you think that Atlanta has a chance at all?
I think they can steal a few games. Right. I totally think that like I said, if they continue playing with that same firepower that they have this entire series against the Philadelphia 76ers, I think they definitely have a chance. My only concern is Trae Young. We saw that when things get heated against him on defense, when you have someone actually putting pressure, he lost the ball a few times. He almost had a few costly turnovers there at the end of the game 7, and you're going to be playing against one of the top, if not the best, defensive point guard in the league. In Jrue Holiday. Mm-hmm. I want to see how it's going to pan out for him. I think Jrue Holiday is great scoring wise, and he won't have to focus as much playing defense because that's not really his role. And if you listen to the podcast of No Chill with Gilbert Arenas, they were talking on one of the episodes how nowadays it's no longer defense wins championships. It's really whoever is the most skilled and talented would probably come up on top, no matter how good your defense is. And we saw exactly what happened with New York, who were number 1 in opposing points per game. They lost in the first round. And then same thing happened to the Utah Jazz. Right. And they lost to Phoenix. And Phoenix, who do they have? They got Devin Booker. It's one thing you have to go at him. You got to make things tougher, but then you lose so much energy trying to stop those guys while you have to really, play on both ends of the floor at the same time.
True. Utah actually lost to LA, and the same thing. Like they lost because of defensive. They just couldn't keep up, and that's something we're gonna get into in a second. But with what you mentioned, you're right. What Charles Barkley and some other people have said is that they don't think that you can just simply outscore teams. Like you see with the Brooklyn Nets, the three of the top 10 guys in the league that are bucket getters. They still need to play pieces around them that are going to contribute a little bit. You're just not going to outscore every team. So when those guys say that defense doesn't win championships, I think that, you have a point, but there's still some, you still got to get stops. You still got to get stops. So I'm going to say, you need to be a good defensive team and have momentum and just be playing at the right pace when you get to that point. But shifting gears to the Western Conference now, all right? The Clippers do beat the Utah Jazz, all right? And they beat them in convincing fashion, right, in Game 7. But now they go and play the Phoenix Suns, who have just been lights out, right? Number 2 in the Western Conference, whereas LA would be number 4, and they lose 120 to 114 in the first game. But Devin Booker has his best game as a pro. One thing I was going to tell you, Devin Booker, Trae Young, both in their first playoff series, all right? Trae Young is having some difficulties, down the stretch and whatnot, but do you think Devin Booker is playing the best out of any player right now?
Right now, it's hard to argue to say that he's not, but it's also hard not to mention Giannis because, it's funny because people will always say, oh, Giannis just drives to the basket, he does this. I know, we all know how complete of a scorer Devin Booker is. He can get you a bucket from anywhere on the floor. He can pull it up on the mid-range. He can drive it to the basket. He obviously has that three-pointer in his arsenal. But then at the same time, Giannis might not have the shooting ability, but he still dominates. And that just goes back to the same thing of being aggressive. Anyone who's actually being aggressive is a great player.
It's true.
Paul George has been clearing his name for past years.
Yes,
And
yes.
he's been dominating, especially in the absence of Kawhi Leonard. It is still uncertain whether he's going to come back in the series or not. They're saying he is missing the first and the second game of the series. He might be back in the second half of this four-game stretch. But at the same time, like, there's so many guys you can talk about. And it's also impossible not to mention Chris Paul. And especially in that series against the Denver Nuggets, he averaged 25 points, 10 assists, and I think he had like 1 turnover a game, 1.5 turnover. Like, he has the best assist to turnover ratio probably in the history of game of basketball. So it is hard not to acknowledge those guys because they actually showed up where it matters. So I think it is great to give credit where credit's due for Devin and Trey, both of them. But at the same time, it is really impossible not to mention guys like Giannis, Chris Paul, and, Paul George as well.
That's a great point. A great point right there. So going to the Western Conference in this series, right? They're winning that game. Right there, they have 120 to 114 and 6. And of course, it went down the stretch. You have Cam Payne that's contributing in the absence of Chris Paul, of course. But on the Clippers side, without Kawhi, Reggie Jackson at 24 and 6, right? You have Paul George at 34. But those are the top 2 scorers on your team. Do you think Paul George can do this by himself? Because at this point, you can't just bank on Kawhi to come back and initially have his legs under him. It's going to be Paul George carrying the load of this team for the entire series. Do you see the Suns winning this series?
You mean the Clippers?
Sorry, yeah, no. Do you see the Suns win this series because?
I think they definitely have a shot because playing a Kawhi-less Clippers is completely a different team. You don't have to play against one of the best defensive players all time. Like, he's not the claw for no reason. He'll just shut you down if it comes down to that, right? If it comes down to the wire. But honestly, it's possible. The first game, it did go down to the wire. Both teams missed 2 of their key players, Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard, like we mentioned, for both of them. And the fact that you only gone down to the wire, the only reason, if you recall, you had so many opportunities down the stretch where Clippers missed wide open threes.
That's true.
Batum missed a couple, and Terrence Mann missed one. And if I'm not mistaken, Reggie Jackson as well.
Yeah, he did.
So, if they hit at least 2 of them, that could be overtime, and then anything happens in overtime. It's like it's becoming a mental game. I'm sorry. And as good as Paul George is, you can also look at role players that can produce, and Terrence Mann, my goodness.
Yeah, he's
the man, pun intended.
The man. Yeah, he had a great game 7, of course, against Rudy Gobert, defensive player of the year, and still not showing on those contests. It was ridiculous. And I'm not going to get into the Utah. You know what? I'm going to get into the Utah Jazz real quick. Do you think that Donovan Mitchell should leave the Utah Jazz? I know he's on the career, he got an extension, but do you think he should request a trade early, try to get out of that town at all?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. They were just unlucky in that game. I think Rudy Gobert being cold doesn't justify his game. We've seen stretches where he had 20-20, 20-20, 20-20, and just like continuously, while also being the most valuable player on that defensive end, being the anchor inside the paint. Because having a guy like Gobert inside, it just makes things easier for guys around the perimeter.
Right.
You don't have to worry about getting beat. So you can play a little bit more aggressive on that three-pointer, especially when you have a few guys who can knock it down. Because if you get beat, worst comes to worst, you got Gobert who can rotate and help, and then somebody can rotate and help the helper, in basketball terms. So it's something that could, like, you could consider. But no, I don't think he should leave Utah Jazz. This Western Conference, in, I would say, 3-4 years, will be his and Book's. And it's going to be the same thing.
Luka?
Luka is speculations. Like we see, like he's special. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But are they gonna build a team around him? Because right now it doesn't look like it. And we seen it in the past. You cannot do it by yourself.
No, you can't. That's true.
Even LeBron couldn't do it by himself.
He almost did.
Almost doesn't count. You still got swept in the finals, so it's like you can't do it by yourself. You really can't, especially when a bunch of teams have at least two superstars that advance to the conference finals.
Right, and you even mentioned your boy Damian Lillard. You think Damian Lillard is done with? You think your Trailblazers are done with too?
It's like I'm not mentioning Damian Lillard because he doesn't have the pieces around him. Once again,
of course not.
He has a 1-2 that can provide something, but it would be very ignorant for me to say, oh yeah, Damian Lillard is going to take over the Western Conference, and he's not young. He's 30. He's going to be 31.
Yeah, so. And then of course there's Jamal Murray who's coming back to Jokic. There's so many different things you can say.
Exactly, yeah.
Let me say this about Gobert though. He was out there when Terrence Mann is shooting. He only missed 6 shots, right? Terrence Mann had the game was like, I believe, at 37, 39, whatever.
39, yeah. He had 39 points.
Right? Because I watched that game.
He was 7 for 10 from 3.
Ridiculous. So, but the reason why he's getting those shots is because it's small ball, right? You don't have – Zubac is not playing, all right? It's Marcus Morris. It's Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Terrence Mann, and Batum. So with those guys, it's a small ball. You have Rudy Gobert, but what happens? They rotate the ball. Rudy Gobert is trying to rim protect, and as soon as the ball gets over the corner, he's not going to have the time to go and show and actually contest. So in that moment, I thought Quinn Snyder could have benched him, probably brought on a guy like O'Neal or someone else that's a little bit more athletic, because that's a mismatch at that point. They're exploiting the mismatch, and that's all Quinn Snyder's fault. I don't know why he got away from that, but. That's something right there. But, of course, I do think the Suns with DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, Cam Payne's playing pretty well. Of course, you have Cam Johnson. They have good pieces around. And, of course,
and they're young.
They're really young.
They're young. They're the youngest team, I think. They were the youngest team in these playoffs. I
think the Chicago Bulls are the youngest in the entire league.
Probably, but they weren't in the playoffs. We don't talk about the teams that didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah, don't. Chicago Bulls
not this. At least not this year. It's okay. They'll have their time to shine. They got Zach LaVine. They got Vucevic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to ask you, this is a great conversation, just talking about all these different scenarios and whatnot. CP3, you would want him to win a ring. I think everyone that.
100%.
You want him to win a ring.
100%.
But do you think it will happen?
Oh, they have a chance. Like I said, if it continues to be the quietest Clippers, it's going to be really hard for Paul George to carry the load for that entire organization. And as much as I want Paul George to do good, because he's one of the pure players that I enjoy watching him play.
He's pretty good.
His game is just smooth.
Yeah.
There's no yes, they all have flaws, but it's just you watch it and it's just sort of slow motion.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's explosive at the same time.
Yeah,
so you can get anything from him.
Yeah.
But Chris Paul, I would love for him to win that ring.
Mm-hmm.
He's done so much for this game, outside and on and off the court. He's been really the voice for the NBA Players Association for many years. And then being that point guard, pretty much the Chris Paul effect. Everybody talks about it, how he goes from one team that's not doing as good, then coming in, changing the whole dynamic, making an extra run in the playoffs, probably going past the first round when it was with the Clippers in that situation.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he goes to Houston. They were this close defeating the Warriors, but he got hurt once again. And then he goes to OKC. With nobody on that team. Don't get me wrong. Shea is really good. Lou is really good, but they're young. You take a bunch of young cats to the playoffs and take Houston to Game 7.
Yeah.
Against James Harden and Russell Westbrook.
Dennis Schroeder.
So, you know what I mean? It's those things like that. You just have to I just want him to do well. Like, he deserves it. He's one of the best point guards the game ever seen.
Oh, bar none. One of the probably the most pure point guard I've ever seen play. And I think, yeah, the Chris Paul effect is really true. And I just want him to win a ring. I just don't know. It's so hard. This is his easiest path to a ring, but it's Giannis's easiest path to a ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, especially with like Eastern Conference is like right now, like you'll look at it, everyone is probably like, oh, Giannis is winning this year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't get me wrong, but who's stopping Giannis on the Hawks?
There's no one. If D Hunt comes back, if the Hunter comes back, you have
either way.
No, yeah,
DeAndre Hunter is too young. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a solid player. He did what he did in Virginia. Yeah. He was one of those guys who can defend, shoot the ball, get to the rim. But it's Giannis.
It's Giannis.
Like, he just goes like a tank. He just charges at you. And if you don't time anything well, you're not taking that charge.
Right.
He'll just dunk over you, and he doesn't even jump off the floor.
Exactly.
He'll just extend his arm and just it's game.
I was surprised at how much Blake Griffin got exposed by him. Blake Griffin was getting abused by Giannis, but he still stayed in front of him. But he got worked the entire series. But I think Giannis, this is just Giannis's time to just win the championship. I hate that he's in Milwaukee, but I think this is just his time to kind of win a championship. I don't know. I want it to be Chris Paul. I'm looking.
I root for that as well, man.
Yeah.
Like, Chris Paul is. It's like, I don't remember. Like, you remember when Ovi won the Stanley Cup?
Yeah, that was
2018. Yeah. And everyone, like, once they reached the conference finals, they were down 3-1. They come back, they win, and all of a sudden, you don't hear anyone saying who is gonna win. They don't care who's gonna win. Everyone is like, we want Ovi to win that Stanley Cup. Yeah. Like, because that completes him. Like, it completes his career. Like, he could retire right now and he'll be one of the greatest players that ever played the game.
Absolutely.
Like, without a doubt.
Yeah, that's
and it's same thing with Chris Paul. He gets that ring, he retires as one of the best players of all time, not just point guards.
Right, and I think that's one thing that he definitely needs. But with that, I know you don't support the Raptors because you're from Montreal, but do you think that you know what? The lottery is happening very soon. Masai Ujiri has not signed his contract yet, and that's something.
He said he's coming back though.
But that was a fake tweet. That was a fake tweet.
Oh, it was like an April Fool's
yeah,
it was May or something like that.
Yeah, someone made an account and they actually made a fake tweet there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
It got me. Yeah, it got me.
Got me too.
It got me.
Got me. Got
it got everyone, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So hopefully the Raptors can actually get a good pick and be back right into it. But, with the way that the East is kind of set up and the way that a lot of things are set up, Brooklyn's going to come back. And, like, as soon as the Brooklyn Nets lost, I was like, okay, that just means next year they come back with even more fire.
They're coming back and winning next year.
Yeah, they come back.
I don't care what LeBron and the Lakers get.
Right.
You
know
if they're going to
come back and do something.
Because if AD and LeBron and the rest of the team can't stay healthy, it doesn't matter what they have.
Right.
You know, and the only thing right now is that Terry Stotts is gone with Portland. That was Dame's coach. They're not getting Jason Kidd because Jason Kidd said no.
Yeah. Chauncey
Billups and Becky Hammond are the leading for the set. Like, they both got second interviews. And I wonder what's gonna happen.
I think they're
there's so many. I think there'll be we're gonna wake up one day and we're gonna see a Voj bomb.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
It's gonna happen. Like, it's going to happen. There will be a Voj bomb, and I don't know if it's gonna be Dame. I don't know if it's gonna be CJ. I don't know if it's gonna be Nurk or 2 of 3, but something. I smell something in the air. Something is coming towards us. Yeah.
And for the coach too, last thing I'll say is, like, Becky Hammond, you have a woman, you have a black guy, and Chauncey Billups. That's like a diversity hire. They're gonna do something, and hopefully whoever they choose can actually take it to the promised land. So
absolutely,
that's gonna be interesting to see. But Ilya, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to talk about when it comes to NBA? Or are you good to go, man?
I mean, it's you toss questions. I'm good, but
it's a year. So listen, you're saying this is the year the Bucks win.
They should. There's no excuse they don't. I think of all 4 teams that are left, I think they're the most complete team defensively and offensively because they got guys who can put it up for you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just Giannis. We see Chris Middleton showing up. Drew Holiday, defensive mind guy, but can also score a little bit. And then you have Brook Lopez who can space the floor and just shoot the threes from,
Right.
Is basically the Clay, the Splash Bro, but like a 7-foot bro.
7-footer.
So
yeah, I was gonna say, like, if they do, because the Bucks are obviously gonna go to the finals unless something miraculous happens.
Yeah, exactly.
40 per game, but like when they get to the finals, you realize the Suns would have, if the Suns get there, Suns would have the highest ranking. So that means they will have home court advantage.
Mm-hmm.
So that means he has to go into that ruckus crowd. That crowd is actually ruckus. I didn't even know because the past 10 years they've been so trash, right? So going into Phoenix and going back and forth, that may be tough for Giannis, but I think the Bucks. This is the Bucks' year to win for sure. So anyways, we'll put that out there.
They should be fine. They travel every year.
If
anything, traveling is like
nothing.
You know what you signed up for.
Yeah, you're right.
The other team was doing the exact same trip. So,
well, this is an OXP exclusive episode 94 by 50 podcast, first step podcast, fusing together to bring this NBA finals. It's NBA conference finals championship preview. We're gonna get back to it, but thank you, Ilya.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, where can they follow you?
Where can they follow me? They can follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. It's all 94 by 50 podcast. You just type it in. That's probably going to be the only thing that'll pop up, I hope, at least.
I think so.
Because you never know. Sometimes you be typing a name and then all of a sudden something else is like, oh, who's that? Got to trademark my name somehow.
You do. Do it really soon. But this is the OXP NBA preview. Keep balling.